Stephen is a good friend of mine who has been working quite a bit around the retail space, and he is also a council member with APARA. Has worked on different areas from the private sector to the public sector. So without much ado, I'm going to pass you to Stephen to kick off his presentation. Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, Oliver. Hi everyone, I'm Stephen. Nice to meet all of you online. Sorry about the last minute change of topic. The robotic process or automation vendor is not paying us for the airtime, so I'm not going to talk about them. That's the power of capitalism. Well, but jokes aside, it's important and effective as RPA as a technology is to retailers. I think it pales in the comparison to the environmental impact we have now in 2020. Last year, I had the privilege to also speak with APARA in one of their events in Daegu, Korea, where we talked of technology and robots displacing jobs, revolutionizing job market, creating vacuums to be filled by untiring AIs that can pinpoint and target a particular personalized service that any consumer would need to. So we warned during then of a replacement event where millions of jobs will be lost and the businesses that did not respect technology will become obsolete. We warn companies, or we try to warn companies that in 2020 you really have to start looking at digitization or you really be thrown behind. We thought that would be the most serious situation that happened. How we have underestimated 2020 apparently. So COVID-19 is here, which is why I changed my topic to talk about it, because like what Anson said, it really is a apocalypse for the retail sector. Now, we all know what COVID has done and what it's still doing. But when you talk to retail SMEs, small medium enterprises or small medium retailers, they would be very puzzled. Where have all their consumers gone to? Time has reopened, businesses has reopened. Where are they now? Why are they not buying like they used to be buying? If you go to some of the malls in Singapore, you visit Orchard malls, you will see that there's an eerie silence in many of them. Many retailers of a certain size have closed down, not to mention the smaller ones. They are really facing a life and death situation here post-COVID in Singapore. I think one of the main reasons that this has happened is because the basic consumer behavior has changed. We are no longer willing to just walk into a retail store and buy what we used to just pick up and pay. Taking myself for example, during early this year, we have our circuit breaker. That is the term in Singapore that we use for the period of time that we're not allowed to go out for partying or do what the retailers like us to do. During circuit breaker, we are to stay home. So during that period, I do not dine. I do not dine out. I cannot dine out. The restaurants are closed. So I grab food. That's the digital ordering of food for them to send over whatever I want to eat from their store to my house. And after I order my food, I will stare at the screen and blaming the route optimizer. Now, why is that delivery driver not taking the shortcut so that I can get my food 5 minutes earlier? My patience is thinner in terms of service requirement. I don't do that in physical restaurants, or I don't used to do that in physical restaurants. In restaurants, I don't care, or I will not expect to know which route the waiter will take in order to bring that steak to my table. But now I do expect to know a rough time on when I can receive whatever order I make, even in the physical restaurant. The digital service has taught me that. During the circuit breaker, I don't go to work either. I work from home. Okay, so I Zoom, I Woof, and because my boss feels that there is no need to, or rather no longer, to take into consideration transportation timing, I have meetings back to back, 24 hours, or whatever working hours I have, back to back, non-stop. And it involves a lot more people than is necessary. So when I go on to Zoom or Woof, I turn off my camera and I explain to everybody I'm preserving bandwidth so that everybody else can have a better online digital meeting experience. I do that. And my boss actually realized that turning off the camera is a great way to invite innovation and creativity. We no longer brainstorm. we brain funnel. There's a host of creative energy whenever people cannot see your face, but you're still communicating with them. So these are the things that has happened and changed the way that we behave as a consumer during the COVID-19. We learn, and we don't unlearn what we learn. And it translates to new ways that the retailers have to face when the market reopens. As a customer, after the time I have in circuit breaker, I'm no longer the same. My soul is different. I'm no longer a customer in many of the sites that I visit. I'm a VIP. I have generous refund policies. I have real-time service. I have 24/7 concierge service from a VIP messenger friend, which I'm pretty sure is a chatbot because he types in perfect English and never misses a spelling. Yeah, but these are translated to what I expect in a real retail store. And most importantly, when I'm online, I no need to explain to a retail executive that I'm just browsing, I'm not buying anything. I have time on my site. I have everything on my site in the retail online experience. And that makes me a much more challenging customer to deal with when I visit a physical store. So for retailers, what happened to them post-COVID? They are now aware of technology, very aware. They know that without e-commerce, they are doomed, especially if a new circuit breaker comes along. They know they have to digitize, so they do. But it's induced by fear. What they do very often are not carefully thought out. They rush to list on marketplaces. They rush to create websites, create social media presences, hire influencers, create new digital channels to sell. Of course, this digitization process is very powerful. It's more powerful than any change leaders we can look for. But it may not be a good thing when everybody rush to do the same thing at the same time. And vendors, technological vendors in Singapore, especially those supported by the government with a grant, are really, really pampered now because they are full of customers. I've talked to some of the vendors. One of them shared with me that in the past, 2019, they call it the history. Historically, they have to hunt for customers. Now they choose who they want to work with. And even with that luxury, they have their customer list queue up all the way to December this year. This is also a problem for retailers who, in earlier years, did not take the advice to digitize and now have to play catch up. But without the digital channel, are they able to survive 2021 or the next time, touch wood, if a circuit breaker-like event happened again? So they do run to digitize. And in response to that need, the government in Singapore presents a lot of grants, whole lot of grants, from salary support grants to training grants to digitization grants, and the quantum goes higher and higher, from 70 to 80 to 90, and top up with a bonus so it goes beyond 100, 150% grant for buying a POS system, for example. What's not to like? So you do see the retailers in Singapore pampered with support if they really want to do a digitization. The challenge now is, are they digitizing in the right direction? Because the change in the digital consumerism, the way customers behave, is translated physically after they have an extended period of time to learn how to shop properly online. There are a few trends that has happened in Singapore post-COVID. For example, the digital bias, or I should say the digital person in charge at home in terms of grocery, has come down in age. In the past, a typical household in Singapore, the parents, the mother and father will be buying the grocery, the 40 plus and the 50 plus. But now, the 30s, the 20s, they are buying the grocery during the COVID-19 circuit breaker period because they are the ones who are savvy in technology and know where to get the right thing online and send to their home quickly. So the changes in this purchasing pattern is translated to real time, to physical space. We don't go to wet market that often anymore after we open. They buy from NTUC, they buy from online, they buy from places that they know they can get directly from the freshest source, from suppliers even. Now, because the suppliers now have a channel to directly sell to the consumers, skipping the middleman and even the retailers completely. So these are things that's important. I have a student that I had the privilege to share and work with in one of my e-commerce classes. He shared with me that being a retail customer is not easy. It's not easy. And he told me that, do you know that a trained retail buyer can get a lot more value out of an untrained one? And you need to keep buying in order to learn how to do so. So he told me what the retail buyer should be buying today. He told me she actually has a 5P, yeah, for buying online. She told me that you have to plan ahead. You have to have a purpose. You have to know what you want to buy. You have to have a purpose. You cannot just buy randomly. You have to have patience, and you have to be persistent in order to buy the right thing that you want. And the last word is a Singapore slang. He said you cannot be paiseh. So you have to ask for a refund or return the product if you don't like it. What you need to do specifically is to research on different platforms and stores to find the right combination of price versus value. You have to join group buys so they can get cheaper products. You have to get quotes from various different stores and make sure they're not chatbots so you can bargain online. You have to listen to the right influencers and make sure they give you the right discounts and vouchers. And you have to wait for auspicious days such as Double 11 or other festivals in order to put down your orders. And finally, you have to be very fast in grabbing all these flash sales. So all this consumerism is going to change the way that a physical customer will step into your store. It's going to interact with retail executives. It's equivalent to creating 100,000 competitors for your product overnight. That's what happened post-COVID. And most of the SME retailers are not ready, or have no clue what to do at this point. But with such a apocalyptic event, most, if not all, retailers in Singapore knows that they have to adopt solution in order to survive. And we do have many retail technology highlighted in pre-approved grants or shared by various agencies and thought leaders in Singapore. We have AR, VR, merchandising, support stores, recognition systems, sensors, all the digital marketing functions, and AIs and datas. And as a transformer for the associations, I do meet many retailers and I share many of these solutions, hoping to get them to step up and adopt solutions that can help them to transform. But whenever I mention the word AI, I'm suddenly, in their eyes, elevated tremendously in sophistication and becomes very expensive. So they stop talking to me the moment I use the taboo word AI. I have to tell them, no, it's not AI, it's just a chatbot. And they have to share with them that they are simpler entry-level solutions, and they need to know what is important to them, plan their resources, and adopt the right solution for their use. Most of the solutions that they are buying now are marketplace-oriented. There are very good grants and support packages pushed out by the government, such as the MEP, which we fondly call it, which allows companies to list in multiple platforms in order to sell. And also for live streaming, everybody is live streaming today, regardless. And we do find that live streaming in Singapore, unlike China, does not sell very well. Yeah, a typical 1-2 hour live streaming will probably sell you 2 or 3 products. There are some influencers very specialized in influencing selling, for example, the Mai and so on. They are good, but by and large, most influencing in Singapore are still focusing on the branding. Selling through influencing or live streaming is not that easy for most retail companies. So we do see a lot of challenges and, sad to say, failures in this adoption. And I do attribute it mostly to unpreparedness and rushing to join the digitization arena. What you see on my slide, the picture is on Q10. So most retailers who listed their product on Q10 with a grant or without a grant does not understand the concept of, or I should say the darker means and tricks that marketplace sellers are doing. Very often, all these 3 products, the Sun Tzu story you see, right, belongs to the same retail or digital retail vendor. They're just listed with different pricing, given different combinations, and created as an illusion that these are multiple sellers, so that uninformed buyers like myself will choose the right one, which actually belongs to the same owner. These are some of the simpler tricks that people use in digital marketing, in marketplace selling. Yeah, so they went into the digitization process without really understanding what to do, and they have an unrealistic expectation of what the technology can do for them. maybe many of them will ask their subordinates or their newly employed digital marketer and ask them, look, create a Facebook site, and why can't you have 100 likes by tomorrow? The many bosses of the SME retailers that I've spoken to does not understand that adoption is generally not a turnkey solution. They don't create results overnight, and because they don't have that knowledge, they are not equipped with that knowledge and they're not prepared to do so. They don't have the resources or the persistence to wait for these solutions to do good for them. So a great replacement event is actually really happening now post-COVID. We do need digitally ready bosses. These are the entrepreneurs and managers that do understand what it takes for an adoption to succeed. One of the key issue here, and I totally agree with Anson, is digital skills and all the mindset that really needs to happen first before the companies rush to digitize themselves. Very often, they are merely transferring their resources and assets from one department to the other. They are not transforming. When they have a digital channel, they don't have the skill sets. They didn't change the pool of human capabilities in the company. They have no digital strategies. They are not even adjusting to the new profile or the means and ways that their customers are interacting with them. So without that, their adoption cannot be successful. The right process, in our opinion, should be learn, select, and implement. But today, most of our SME retailers are running to the implementation part directly and rely very often on hearsay or thought bubbles to decide on what is important for them to adopt. There are some applications in the market that I've come across, and most of them has no government grants. Government grants is a double-edged sword. In one way, it reduces the risk of adopting, but in another way, if a solution or particular category of solutions has not yet been selected or approved by the government agencies, it becomes non-competitive in the market. But that is going to be a fact around the world. Public bureaucracy will generally never catch up with market sentiments. But that is a problem, especially for Singapore, because we have been supported by our government in terms of grants for such a long time. The solutions that are listed on the left are very common in terms of usage. For example, the mini shop. The mini shop, without a better description, is simply a link to a HTML page equipped with a management order system, link up with aggregated benefits with logistic functions. It is really very simple. And when we explain that to a typical SME or micro SME boss, they catch it immediately. You simply tell them, oh, what happened? What happened when there is a problem and a new circuit breaker happened? And then you can no longer sell, can no longer open your shop. What are you going to do? Die, right? Yeah. They don't immediately agree with you. And you just tell them, look, just get all the contacts of your customers and put it in WhatsApp. And then you just send a link in a mini shop through their WhatsApp. So let me just correct it. This solution has nothing to do with WhatsApp. It's merely a simple way for our SME retailers to use WhatsApp as a channel where every one of their staff, as well as their bosses, understand. And this, I think, is a very good starting point for the companies or the retail bosses to understand and start analyzing how to transform their business from the physical mean to the digital space, using their time, the time of their retail executive in the physical store where the shop is primarily empty, to actually do digital sales through WhatsApp. Changing talking to typing is already a very, very big step, in terms of digitization. So there are also some other solutions that I won't elaborate here. For example, the digital marketing simulator simply simulates an advertising campaign before you actually pay for it. And the retail process optimizer runs through all the data and help you decide whether there's any optimization you need to do in terms of your last mile delivery or your supply chain. So in summary, I think the most important currency of adoption is the number of willing bosses. Today, we have no lack of them. So what we need to do now is merely train them so that they are adopting the technology correctly. Okay, so finally, as the COO of StackMatch, we are calling for collaboration. So in these three ways, to introduce feasible technology solutions for the SMEs, so that we can reintroduce them to the clients that we have, to share with our bosses and our students what they can be looking at instead of the whatever is available in the market only. We also would like to seek training and education projects, be it immersion projects, joint collaborative mentorship, and other content exchange or content licensing. And finally, when we talk to the SME retailers in Singapore now, we do find the majority of them having too much stocks at hand. So we call for solution providers, channel providers, business people, associations to help us find channels for them to sell products around the world. We tried to help them to sell some of these products into China via influencing, but I was told by our China MCM partners that most products in China are selling at 90% off. Yeah, so that is not viable for most of our micro SMEs. So if you do have any channels, innovative channels to help them, to assist them to clear their stocks, please contact us, and we can speak further to see if we can do anything to help them. That's all for me today. Over back to you, Oliver.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Really appreciate it. When you first spoke to me about changing the topic to the great replacement, I was scratching my head in terms of what you have in mind. Now I fully understand. That message is really coming across very strong and indeed very appropriate. And more importantly, your last couple of slides talks about how the retailer should move forward. That's indeed very good advice. I would also want to comment that, at the end of the day, as the Chief Opportunity Officer, that's a brand new title, I guess. It's indeed very critical in terms of how you can explore new ways businesses can look at how they can get in connection with the customer. Now, let me move on now.